This meeting is being conducted utilizing teleconference and electronic means consistent with State of California executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. Zoom is being utilized for this meeting, as well as YouTube. In case of technical issues, meetings will be uploaded to the city website as soon as possible after the meeting. We will be conducting today's meeting in the virtual setting using Zoom. Planning Commission members and staff are participating from remote locations, practicing appropriate social distancing. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting by using Zoom, as noted on the city's website and as noted on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak to the Planning Commission may do so during public comment or may comment on agenda items during the discussion of each item and must be logged into Zoom. YouTube is a viewing only format. Anyone using abusive, vulgar, offensive, threatening, or harassing language, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups will be muted and removed from the meeting. Please do not abuse this way to provide public comment. And Everett, you're muted.
Okay. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting to order of June 22nd, Sebastopol Planning Commission. And with the chair and vice chair unable to be here, they gave notice weeks ago that they weren't going to be able to be here. So I will be leading the meeting. We can do a roll call.
Okay. Commissioner Lindenbush.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Here.
And Commissioner Dauch is absent, although we are expecting him at some point for the meeting. And Chair Fritz and Vice Chair Ottinger are excused.
Okay. And since we do not have a quorum, we will modify the agenda. And I believe we can go to number 4, comments from the public on items not on the agenda to start with.
Correct. And we have not received any written comments via email or other written communication for this meeting. And I do not see any members of the public here either.
Okay. All right. And let's see, I guess statement of conflict of interest is we're not going to be deliberating anything. And I guess we can go to subcommittee updates.
Sure. I have a update on the Climate Action Committee, relatively short, but the city is moving forward with an application in conjunction with SCTA, RCPA, for a Civic Spark Fellow. So a lot of excitement to have that coordination with RCPA to have a fellow working on climate action oriented items with the city. Tomorrow, the CAC will meet and Carrie will be presenting on the general plan, getting the Climate Action Committee acquainted with the general plan as it functions in the city and how we can be grounding our actions as a body in the general plan as well. And the funding working group is bringing forward a proposal to revisit the city's utility user tax as well. So that's my update.
Okay,
thank you, Luke. And if I can just expand a little bit on just an update on that. I met with Tanya Nara, the Director of Climate Programs from RCPA today. We reviewed and submitted the application for Civic Spark, so that is completed. And I actually saw an email at the end of the day from Civic Spark, ready to set up an interview or a discussion time with them to discuss that. Additionally, the City Council approved a letter of support for that application, which and that was a unanimous approval, I believe, on June 15th. And then at the budget, the departmental budget discussions last night, there was unanimous support for adding that into the planning department's budget should we be successful at that, obtaining a fellow. And just so others know, the fellow, it's partially funded, I believe, through the AmeriCorps program, so it's similar to that. What it provides to the city for $29,000 is a a graduate who would work specifically with the Climate Action Committee in the city to work on a climate action framework update. And we get 1,700 hours from the fellow. So basically full-time for 11 months starting in September. And that's an effort that actually the CAC had discussed previously of something we just didn't have the capacity to do either in-house or the committee itself. So this would be a great boon to us. And the partnership with RCPA is that the city would be the recipient of the work and be the fiscal sponsor of it. RCPA would actually be the site supervisor, and the fellow would be physically located at RCPA, where they have a lot of mentors and folks who are deeply involved with the climate resilience issues the county is working on.
Okay. I will have a zero waste committee update at our next meeting, and working on a lot of really good stuff. So I will report on that at the next one.
Right. And then I can give a quick update on the design guideline subcommittee, which was created, which Paul Fritz is on. We have had 2 meetings now, and our next one will start in more depth, working on drafting some interim design guidelines. Our last meeting, we actually talked about sort of what the potential sites were, both our existing housing inventory and our existing housing element, but to get a sense of, when we're creating these standards, what are the likely multifamily or mixed use with commercial sites. So we reviewed that and had a discussion on that in the last meeting.
Okay. Is there any efforts or thoughts of pursuing, say, existing homes that might be able to expand to add more, rental unit, a garage, that kind of thing, and kind of low-hanging fruit in a way, because it's easier to do. Some of it might just be some simple permitting and so forth, but I know that would take some effort.
So, the easiest way to do that, given state laws and our local laws regarding accessory dwelling units, is partially to do that. Obviously, we waive any of the impact fees for a unit that's 750 square feet or less. So it's a much easier process. The city of Sebastopol does not require a admin, even though our code says we could do. We don't require an admin permit. We just send them right to the building department. The only time they have an admin permit is if they have windows right adjacent within the setbacks facing other properties, as the commission reviewed last about 1.5 years ago in November, December, when you reviewed the ADU updates. And I know prior to Alan's departure, he actually did, there's a Napa Sonoma ADU center that has put on a number of workshops, and Alan, as well as folks from the building department here, did a Sebastopol specific session to, which is actually up on our website, along with all the housing talks, lectures that this group had. So that's available for people to view. I will say we're continuing to see an increase in those. I actually have, I have a building permit for an ADU on my desk right now. So, and a lot of them are actually converting, this is a garage conversion. They still have the driveway parking, but state law and our laws don't require, if you're converting something for an ADU, a full dwelling unit, and not just an office or something like that, you don't have to maintain the parking space. And we're also doing, code enforcement when we do see someone who's converted to say, hey, no, you can't do that. It's, if it's not an accessory dwelling unit, that's, that's one of the incentives to get more rental units. So we're continuing to see those. There is state legislation that has not passed, but it's a proposed bill that would allow duplexes in single-family neighborhoods, so the ability to buy an existing home. In not, right now you can do that you can have both a junior accessory dwelling unit and an accessory dwelling unit and your single-family home on a parcel. But you can't do duplex, so there are size limits and things like that. It also does allow, I won't get into too much detail, but it would allow certain lot splits to happen as well, which, you know, I'm sort of tracking that legislation. I don't know where that's going to go yet. So there's a few things at the state level, and then our policies are pretty generous at the local level, especially with the addition that, you know, you can build an accessory dwelling unit, but you can't rent it short term then either. So our department makes it very clear to folks that we're really looking for the additional housing to be for long-term residents.
Yeah, you know, might be worth re-mentioning in the newsletter or letting people know about the video that's available, because I think that's something that should be encouraged and make it as easy as possible for individuals and people who just don't know that they have that capability or possibility. So that's great.
Right. And unfortunately, one of the things that's going on is that, you know, construction costs are pretty crazy right now. So there are some people who get into it and then they kind of realize, you know, the cost. The Napa Sonoma ADU Center has actually put together a calculator so that homeowners can go there and just kind of type in their city or county if they're in the county, and sort of the size they're looking for, if it's new construction or convert, you know, they can kind of get a sense of the cost per square foot as well as the rent that they would likely get for it. Just as that kind of snapshot so they can kind of understand the implications of that.
So it's building an ADU as well as converting existing space is what they help with.
Right. Yeah. So the calculator itself is just, you know, because obviously new construction is very different than remodeling or an existing garage that's either attached or detached or something like that. So yeah, in terms of trying to help, just if someone has the idea and wants to know something. And then obviously if you need to talk to somebody, they're there for that as well.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
I have a question, a follow-up real quick.
Sure.
About, you know, either doing an addition or doing, you know, ADU. How does our county tax it? Is the whole property retaxed, or is, I mean?
So yeah, so when you
that
do, it's just like when you do a addition to your house, they don't reassess the whole house. What they do is they look at the new unit or the new construction, and they look at the value of that and add that portion to your tax roll.
Because I heard that Portland was having a problem incentivizing people to build, because after they built, then they realized they were paying, like they had been reassessed on the whole thing. And so now they're looking at different ways to create that additional housing. So it sounds like the city needs to then change its rules. Is this, I mean, not the county, is this county rules or is this state mandated?
That's a good question. I think under Prop 13, they couldn't reassess the entire property, you know, the land and the existing structure. So like when I built my ADU, you know, I didn't touch the main house. It's a detached unit. So they looked at the value of the new detached unit, and that was what was the change in the tax roll.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah,
good.
And unlike solar, where they don't do it at all, but you know, obviously there is value, and not everyone uses their ADU for rentals, but and certainly in other places they are. I've seen them used more as expansion of you know, more like someone uses it for guests when they come to visit, and it's more of their part of their single family home versus in Southable, where it very much often, you know, it generally is another household living in it, which is refreshing and great to see.
Right.
If I could just follow up on that, one thought that came to mind just with the cost of construction, I think there's been a little bit of an uptick to an interest in JADUs, which have a smaller square footage and have to be basically carved out of the existing square footage of the home itself. They can't be and you know, a garage addition or a detached structure. So that's, and it can also has a little bit more flexibility as well in terms of it can have a shared bathroom or you can add a bathroom, and the kitchen requirements I think are a little different as well. So I think just with the cost of lumber, in some senses, there's been a little bit more of an interest in JADUs as well.
Yeah, and I don't answer every question. Usually the staff planner is doing sort of most of those calls, but I do see that once in a while, and I know we have permitted and finalized a few of the JADUs. But you're correct, Luke, where it's more of an ensuite with its own. It does need to have a separate entrance, but I've worked with someone who is interested in doing it, and just how they can make their existing entry into their home work for the upstairs being a JADU and the downstairs being, and so I tried to help them out with if you put just put a door there, framed in a door there, that would actually make it more of a, a little bit of a lobby and give you the separate. But yes, we certainly have had some folks interested in that as well.
And anything on planning director's report, or is that part of that?
Sure, I can do that now. And then if there are additional questions, it's an agendized item, so that's not an issue. So let's see. So I'll just give an update of the past meetings that have been going on. So starting with the Public Art Committee, because they're the first Wednesday of the month and the first meeting of the month. This month, we do have a call for sculpture out for the sculpture garden at Ives Park. And I don't know if I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the pads are currently under construction by Public Works. They have done some grading. So if you go, they haven't, just sort of scoring into the surface where they're going to go. They've ordered materials for framing those up into the sculpture pads. Public Works is unfortunately a bit short-staffed right now, and they've had some water and sewer emergencies that they've had to retask on. But we've had everything is set up for that. The call is out, and we anticipate the call for any sculptors who are interested is the beginning of August, and then our Public Art Committee will be holding over two sessions. They'll be holding review and anticipate doing recommendations in September. And then that would go to the council later in September and with an opening in October. We also have, let's see, what's the next meeting? So from the last couple of city council meetings that have happened, they did, as I noted, they did start their budget hearings for departmental budgets on the 15th. They continued that discussion till last night and had further discussion last night on both that, and then they had the presentation on the capital improvement plan. Similar presentation you'll get for the general plan consistency item review that the Planning Commission is responsible for. But both of those items last night were continued to the July 6th meeting. And so that will be kind of wrapping up any details and the changes and modifications they had requested. There weren't a lot of departmental changes to the planning department, other than, as I noted, the Civic Spark funding was added into the department budget for that. And then they are looking to add in the Upcycle Art Project. They also had on last Thursday, so it was at the June 17th, they had a special city council meeting to review Jerry Threep's external audit of the police department. So they had that discussion. I think that's it for meetings. Quite a few of those, but yeah, so their next meeting on July 6th. I know they were scheduled on July 6th to discuss the Planning Commission geography. I suspect that will be bumped to, and I've actually suggested that it might make more sense, if they're going to have another lengthy budget review on the 6th, that to be bumped into the 20th, since we did receive 2 applications for the Planning Commission vacancy that Bo Anderson left when he moved out of town. And so I believe actually July 6th at 5 p.m. they will have an early start time to do interviews for that position, and then they generally appoint at that same meeting. So looking to likely have another member of the Planning Commission by your meeting on the 14th, or sorry, the 13th. And I think that is it in terms of the planning department projects. We are getting the local hazard plan draft is almost complete. And so once we're done with the administrative staff level review, I have a couple more departments that I need to hear back from on that, but we will be scheduling a presentation with the Planning Commission for that. So I anticipate that maybe the second meeting in July to keep that going. And so that'll be a presentation of the draft plan. The electronic permitting, I think I had noted previously, was approved by council. So we are working out the contract on that one. And I think that's it. There's a lot going on. So if you have questions about any other projects going on in town, I can try to help.
Okay. I actually do have a question on where you're at with the hydrology report on Ives. Yeah.
Yes, I am. So I am actually working on contracts with both GHD and a service agreement with, I believe it's called Urban Waterways. Everett, you probably know Anne Riley.
Yes.
Luke, you probably both know, actually.
Yes.
So,
that's great.
And yeah, we had a meeting with both the point person, which is not Tony, it's a hydrologist, engineer by the name of Rachel, who will be leading the project for GHD, and Riley, to discuss how that partnership might work, with Riley taking on more of the community visioning. And so she'll be doing a presentation. I believe, Everett, she might have discussed with you doing an early planning commission start time to do that.
Yeah.
However, I actually kind of feel, and I discussed with Paul, now that he's chair, just doing that as a regular agenda
and
just for the planning commission.
Yeah, and getting the word out, because I think that would be a really important
Right.
piece for public to know as well. Yeah.
Right, and so I'm working, that is in the sort of the carryover budget for next year for that council reviewed. But I am trying to actually get those contracts done before the end of this year, since it's obviously still in this year's budget. So we can go ahead and get that started. And I had we had a couple adjustments after we met as a team to see how it would all work out. So GHD would still do the technical hydrology part of it. And Riley would do the community visioning and some of the so the overall kind of design concept kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and is there any possibility to revisit the Ives Park master plan? It's been quite a few years since that was put together.
Yeah, so this the Ives Park master plan did come up a little bit at the council meeting last night, not necessarily in terms of revisioning, although there were, I believe Councilmember Slater had some questions about the northwest section. So the sort of the weird little steps down at the behind the fire department, mm-hmm. and that portion of it. And what I noted is that, you know, that the creek is obviously a must-have in the park. It's a part of the stormwater, you know, flow system, as well as a natural creek we want to revitalize. I feel it's important to figure out what that is going to do, because if that does have sort of a different twist or alignment mm-hmm. than what we're anticipating, that will inform what can happen in, you know, what spaces and what can happen in other places.
Yeah.
They did not talk about sort of reopening the whole park, and in fact, they were happy that some of the major items like the pathway and the creek were moving forward. And I certainly let them know that the Planning Commission really felt like we needed to move this, you know, felt that Ives Park was master plan was a priority to start implementing. So they were thankful for that. So I certainly want to thank the commission for pushing that and making that a priority as well. I think that has come through to council. After the creek naturalization, we'll know more about that central portion of the park, and how that might inform, you know, modifications to other areas. Obviously, the sculpture garden is also going in sort of exactly where it's slated to. for the master plan, but there may be opportunities in some of the smaller areas. The Little League fields did not come up as a, why do we need them or anything like that. I think that's certainly because they built and revitalized those fields, and there isn't really another place for them to go. I don't know if council would be open to that or not. I know at least one former planning commissioner was always interested in that.
Yeah, I just think that, because in the master plan, if I'm correct, those redwood trees are supposed to come down. The playground is supposed to be moved from one section to another. There's a lot of things that may not make sense at this time. And so rather than wait, maybe there's some, it's worth reviewing at some point, but you're right, without knowing the creek, we can't complete it. But, things like the playground and so forth, that, perhaps that might still be affected, but just to FYI, that maybe at some point in the future, I don't know how that would come about. Is that something the commission could do, or would we need direction from city council?
So you would need direction, because that would be a cost and a work plan effort that's not on the sort of scheduled work plan. But I think, I think I heard that there's in terms of sort of minor adjustments to make sure it's up to date and makes sense. I know when I looked at the master plan to begin with, there's the larger gathering area in the southwest area that's slated where the Peacetown concerts are.
Yeah.
In normal years, at least. And then there's kind of an amphitheater and stuff on the other side as well. And I've never quite understood why there are two spaces like that instead of one. And no one's ever been able to explain to me why that is.
Yeah.
So, I do see that, there are maybe places where maybe reprogramming things a little bit might make sense. I think my understanding is that the playground relocation was so that it could be closer to picnic areas and things like that on a sort of a daily basis kind of a thing.
Right.
But, I think, there's certainly some updates that could happen.
Yeah, because that makes it difficult for parents, because the kids are closer to the street and the bathrooms kind of, there's a lot of logistical reasons parents with kids like that playground and why they bring it, and bringing their kids there.
Here's a reminder.
Right.
Put garbage cans.
Right. And one of the things that, what
Here's
council
a
asked,
reminder.
what council member Slater asked was just to make sure that the things that we were doing weren't going to have to be, like the pathway weren't going to have to be redone. And I said, no, myself and the commission have been very particular about we want to implement this in a way that moves it forward and not isn't a temporary fix kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I have a question. Thank you for the report. Do you have a status update on the associate planner recruitment?
Yes. So unfortunately, we did not get a successful candidate from our search. So we do have that re-advertised. It is, I think it went out last Wednesday for 3 weeks. And so most likely, we'll, if our next round we get a successful hire, we'll be looking at having someone start probably in, beginning of August would be the most likely start date for that. The good news is the two folks from the Nova Group who are helping us with the temporary on-call staffing are able to continue, providing service for that, and they're sort of pretty much fully up and running now at this point. So we have one person, Kelly, who's a senior planner handling projects like the Huntley Square project. And then a assistant planner who's doing the more day-to-day types of things. And so you'll actually meet both of them at upcoming planning commission meetings.
Excellent. Thank
It was
you.
unfortunate. I had one candidate in particular that I was really hopeful for, but she actually took another job closer to her family. So.
And is there any update on Huntley Square itself?
Yes. So Huntley Square, as I think I had reported at a previous meeting, they did have their preliminary hearing with the review of the planned community zoning, which also served as a preliminary design review, study session for comments on that component of it a month or so ago. And they did recommend that to the Planning Commission as it was proposed by the applicant. We are currently working on the technical studies for CEQA. It does require an initial study review. So different technical studies, but similar to what you saw for the Benedetti car wash, which was an initial study that went through all the different potential environmental components. We do need four studies for this particular project based on its site and the dynamics. So those consultants are on board and working on their project. And we're doing sort of the internal components of it that we can, so that we can get that forward to you as quickly as possible once the studies are done and incorporated.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
think actually there were a few items that came up from the design review board that there'll probably be slight adjustments to the plans that they're doing, particularly some of the site work to make sure the adjoining neighbor trees are not damaged and things like that. So they're working on that as well. The other things that I can tell you, we will likely have a preliminary application from Habitat for Humanity to develop they have received a donation of the vacant lot that's across from Safeway next to the Masons Lodge. And so they're looking to do some housing on there. And so that they'll likely do a preliminary review with the Planning Commission to get some feedback through the study session. And so they'll be submitting that hopefully soon. We've met with them a couple times on that.
Is that, how is that zoned?
It's downtown core. So it requires a use permit for residential only. And they have a couple other sort of odd things about the parcel that they wanted to get feedback on.
Okay. Any word on future meetings, commission, council? Are we in-person meetings? Are we continuing Zoom, hybrid, or?
Sure. So I talked about this, but as we're still waiting to see if that can show up. The governor did extend the ability to do remote meetings through September. And so I do anticipate the July meetings will probably still be via Zoom. I'm we're sort of letting the council and city clerk take the lead on how that progresses. And we anticipate some sort of hybrid model so that those who do need to log in can do so remotely. And there's a lot of logistics, but how do you do that and make sure it's seamless for everybody and whatnot that they're working on. But that's kind of what I anticipate from what the discussions that we've had and what certainly other cities are looking to do too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And so we are at 7:05 and I have not heard from Zach. I did leave him a voice message and sent out an email. So if you're sick of hearing me talk.
I could hear you give us information all day long, but
no,
sure.
actually, it's quite nice to not feel sort of rushed at the end of a meeting.
Right.
So, I appreciate that.
What do you propose? Wait till 10 after?
Yeah, we can wait till 10 after. I think that seems appropriate. If you're thinking 7 is running late, that makes sense. Yeah. And if not, because council has not had the first reading and won't until July 6th of the capital improvement plan, and they won't be adopting it until the 20th. What we can do is open the public hearing and simply continue it to the date certain to the July 13th meeting.
Okay. And when did you say they're looking to bring in a new commissioner?
So that application period has closed. They have scheduled interviews on July 6th.
Okay, so potentially we could have the next. Okay,
I need to make sure I can. It would be the day before the meeting that I'm actually out the 6th, 7th, and 8th, other than the council meeting. But as long as I can schedule a orientation and oath of office on the Monday before the meeting, then he or she would be able to join.
Yeah, whatever works out. Yeah. Okay.
I did have one additional question. just moving down Bodega, I guess. On Woodmark with the SB 35, I was wondering if the tribal consultation in that 60 or 90-day period, just where that was at.
Sure. So, so we did meet all the statutory requirements to begin tribal consultation. In fact, the city notified the tribes as soon as we heard from the Native American Heritage Commission. So we did in a bit less than the 30-day requirement. So we've met all the statutory requirements and had our first tribal consultation within that time frame as well. And I'm not sure how much I'm able to say about the tribal consultation, other than they did request some additional information. They do have some concerns. And so we have gotten them some additional information that they're reviewing right now. And so that process is still ongoing.
Thank you.
So what'd you have for lunch today?
I'm actually thinking if there are other projects. So I can say the other sort of high profile projects that might be of interest. One is the livery building, which is the old round table building. So if you hadn't heard, the design review board did approve the design, the renovation for that. They actually are just, I think I was in the office today, and they just submitted their for sign and a couple of sign program for that, and a couple of minor design amendments. And I've also had discussions with them about they are looking at having some live music. So I met with them to talk about they will need a use permit that'll come before the planning commission. So I met with them and talked to them about some of the general concerns they should look at and things like that. So we are anticipating that they'll be moving forward with that. The Woodmark project, the project behind O'Reilly, which you all saw before COVID, probably a year and a half ago, as a preliminary review. They kind of went dark during COVID, but they did contact the city, and we met with them probably about a month ago, and they are looking at not quite the same ownership, but very related to the City Ventures folks, moving forward with some sort of project. From what I saw, they were certainly looking at addressing the planning commission's concerns regarding the setbacks to the rural residential areas along Hurlbut and Winona Lane. They do have some significant sort of the access, if you recall, because it's through the O'Reilly parking lot, is somewhat tricky. So they are continuing to work on, and we met actually with the fire chief to discuss some of the emergency vehicle access requirements. And so they're working on some of the technical details for that. They have not resubmitted yet officially, but that is one of the things that's going on. I have also recently spoken with the Hotel Festival folks. And they are, as you know, they have the Ned Con art in the lot right now. They are absolutely engaged and looking to move forward with the project. Unfortunately, they had to sort of restart all the construction bit and the finance stuff. Post-COVID has all changed, and so they are working on that right now. But they are hopeful. And we talked about their entitlements and things like that. Their entitlement would, because the council did a blanket extension on COVID, on all permits for a year based on, because of COVID last year. Their entitlement is good until October, beginning of October, I believe, by which time they would need to pull their building permit or get some other type of extension.
Okay. All right. Well, we are at 7:11 time frame. So seeing still no quorum, unless anyone has an objection, I guess we should call this meeting.
So what you technically what you should do is open the public hearing.
Okay.
And then continue it. I would get a motion to continue it to the July 13th meeting.
Okay. So I will open public meeting, and if we can get a motion for continuance.
I'll move to continue the meeting. Oh.
Sorry, just for the record, I'll note, I'm looking at the agenda, so let's go in order. The first thing you should do is statement of conflict of interest.
which I already covered.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't.
Yeah,
know
that's
that,
okay.
I missed that. Okay. And so so this is a public hearing of the Planning Commission of the City of Sebastopol to consider general plan compliance requirements for the proposed capital improvement plan budget for fiscal year 21-22. And so now if we, Everett, if you can ask for a motion.
Yep. So a motion for continuance for public comment.
I move to continue this meeting to the Planning Commission meeting of July 13th at 6 p.m.
So 6 p.m.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue the public hearing on general plan compliance for the CIP to July 13th. Acting chair, I will do a roll vote. And we have Commissioner Lindenbush,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and Commissioner Fernandez.
Aye. And I see we have a member of the public. I should probably bring Mr. Diedler up to speed here. When we ended up not having a quorum for the meeting, which actually started at 6, not 7. So the item for that we were discussing today will be continued and will be discussed on July 13th instead, and we will have public comment at that point. Right. So you just found some new free time.
And actually, you can, if you'd like, Commissioner Fernandez, ask for public comment on that item, since you do have a member of the public here.
Okay.
If they would like to comment.
Yeah. So Linda, if you wanted to say anything, or you'd rather wait till July 13th, I will reopen. Or if you make a comment tonight, I will also will be allowed to, I'm assuming, make comments at July 13th. So
I wanted to comment. Let's see, what is the topic that is up for discussion?
well, at this point, we're not able to go through the budgetary, which is the main agenda item, because since we didn't have a quorum, we couldn't really make a vote or decision on that. So
Right, and I can give an overview of what
Yeah,
the
please,
hearing
thank
will
you.
actually be. So, and Lynn, I believe you were at the city council meeting last night. Is that? Lynn, were you at the city council meeting last night?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So it will be so the city council adopts the capital improvement plan budget, and so they started their hearing last night. Before they can adopt, before their second reading and official adoption of the capital improvement plan, under state law, the Planning Commission needs to make findings that the capital improvement plan is consistent with the general plan. And so what we have, and it's in the staff report on our website, is, for each item that is proposed for funding in the capital improvement plan, we need to have general plan consistency findings. And so those are outlined in the budget in detail and in the staff report. And so that is what the Planning Commission will act on. We've just continued that to the 13th. That's what they will act on. And then that will allow the city council to be able to adopt the budget at their meeting. So the Planning Commission doesn't actually do any, monkeying with the capital improvement budget funding at all. It's simply the general plan component of it.
Okay, and so basically not having a meeting tonight.
Yeah, we had some other items on the agenda that did not require a quorum because we are now starting Planning Commission meetings at 6. So we had a member come in late, and then we began the meeting and we went through the rest of the items.
So
just in case
okay,
anyone
so I'm
forgot
late for the show.
until 7.
Okay, so I will adjourn and leave you to your continued work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Carrie, I did have one question regarding that item. So basically, as the commission, we're going to go through and just say that it does comply with the general plan. What about it's not to make comments or you know, comments about prioritize or anything. So it's just, yeah, it fits in with the
Correct.
general plan.
Yeah, so, and I know Linda, actually, it sounds like she attended or watched the council meeting last night. So Tony and I will go through in a more abbreviated fashion, but we'll go through the projects that are included in the capital improvement plan. And then I'll go through the general plan, the policies that each of those projects relates to. And so the planning commission's purview is limited to whether or not you have issues with the general plan consistency, the policies that are identified for the projects.
Okay.
And technically we have to wait until after they've the council has discussed in case they add in new projects, because we would then need to have findings for those projects as well.
Okay.
So that's why the kind of the quick turnaround is happening on this, and we couldn't just in our normal form where we do things, you know, 3 or 4 weeks before the city council takes it up. So if you do want to comment on priorities or funding of any projects, you should do that through the normal public comment period. Or, you know, by sending a communication to Mary Gurley is probably
to the council, you're saying? Yeah.
To the council.
Okay. And
yeah, so that would be a comment to council, exactly.
And which council meeting would that be at? Would that be after the 13th?
So in terms of the capital improvement plan, they have continued that to the July 6th meeting.
Okay.
And so that's the meeting.
Got it.
Where they're likely to do their first reading, and then the second reading on the 20th is usually just a consent calendar,
Got it.
you know, cleanup of any edits or things like that.
Okay.
So definitely the 6th.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
Okay.
And I did have a question on that July 6th meeting. So will we still be able to offer public comment on the funding items and participate in the hearing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we can close the meeting, adjourn.
Yes. So you can go ahead and adjourn the meeting to the July 13th at 6 o'clock.
Okay. I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, the commissioners. And again, my apologies for my tardiness, and 6 o'clock for the next one. I got it on my calendar. So thank you for being here and your patience.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Okay.